Howdy, Montana fans. Well, it's time for that weekly growl. St. Before me today's guest, I want to remind you, pick up a copy of EU Jacksonville, Entertaining EU Jacksonville. It's available free all over town. Got great stuff in there. You got lots of things about theater, events going on in Jacksonville, all good news in EU Jacksonville. It's free. And also, check the website, www.eujacksonville. You'll see reviews of the plays we're going to be talking about today. Well, we're going to be talking about a play that's currently open. We saw it last weekend. We'll tell you about that. Plus a wonderful show that's coming up next weekend. And my co-host, Leisla Sansom, who is back from Australia, will give us introduce our guest.
Thank you, Hound. And for our first guest today, we have not one, not two, but three guests. We have Jordan Bourne, who is a transplant from Michigan and enjoying the weather. We have Dakotah Roche, who has allowed her owner, Susan Roche, to accompany her. All three have been active in theater, and Dakotah currently is a upstager at the Miracle Worker play from that we're seeing on the stage at Theatre Jacksonville. Jordan, we'll just start with you before Dakotah has a chance to completely upstage you. You're from Michigan. Tell us something about your background and theater experience and why you wanted to do this play.
Yes, so I'm from Grand Rapids, Michigan, which is right here on the old hand map. And my theater background is I was in all throughout high school. I did 14 different productions. I was in 5 musicals. And the rest were all dramatic performances, black box, big stage, huge, just a tremendous opportunity, 800 seat auditorium. So that's where I developed my theater background. What brought me to Jacksonville is my job. I'm in sales. I sell corrugated boxes, mass quantities, and I really like it. And most phenomenal thing is the weather. It's 39 back in Michigan, and it's what, 75 today. Okay. So it's perfect.
And what attracted you to this play?
What attracted me to this play is I've always heard of it. I had originally auditioned for the younger part, the son, but apparently my demeanor and everything else. I mean, I'm 24 years old and I'm playing a 45-year-old man or older. So I really wanted to challenge myself and develop that. So it was a great transition back into a leading role. I haven't had one in 5 years. I was off for 5 years, doing nothing, and then I was back in Love Goes to Press this past November, and I loved it. It got bit by the bug again, so I'm back in it, and I love it.
Okay, and Susan, tell us something about your background and how you got to this particular play.
Well, I've been doing community theater here in Jacksonville for a few years. And last season, Dakotah and I were both in the Mystery of Edwin Drood at ABET. So the Miracle Worker actually has a role for a dog, and she plays a prominent role near the end of the play. And so Theatre Jacksonville contacted me and asked me if Dakotah would like to be in the show. And I said yes.
And how would you rate her performance today?
She could get better.
Yeah.
She has a nose for food, and since there's food in the show, she has a one-track mind.
Okay.
But she's doing good.
So she has a bright future ahead of her on Jacksonville stages.
I hope so. I do hope so.
Because there are a number of plays with dogs. Wizard of Oz, Annie, just things. I guess I'd have to dye her hair brown. Well,
maybe.
Okay.
Yeah, or change her name.
Yeah. Right. Well, Jordan, tell us something briefly about the plot of The Miracle Worker for people that might not be familiar with it.
The plot of The Miracle Worker is basically the first, 10 years of Helen Keller's life. Very, very briefly the infancy, and then mostly her as a young girl, and transitioning and learning the first time that Annie Sullivan, who is her teacher, who is the Miracle Worker, comes in and really teaches her everything that she needs to know. When Annie Sullivan has been blind So she was able to, really communicate well and know exactly what to do. So the show is based on Helen Keller's transition into learning how to communicate.
Okay. Well, we saw this show, and it was not an easy transition, let me convey to our listeners. There's screaming, stomping, temper tantrums. It's a very difficult task to teach a deafblind child. I have no idea how you would really go about it. And this was set in the 1880s, so Annie Sullivan had almost nothing to help her with. I mean, there weren't any lesson plans. So she had to devise them all. And it was a very emotional proceeding. So, question for you, Susan. How did you go about helping Dakotah learn her role?
One of the biggest things was to get her very comfortable with her castmates. That when she, and we did the same thing with The Mystery of Edwin Drood, that when the castmate that she's on stage with comes into the theater, Dakotah's excited to see them and she wants to spend time with them. Because especially with this show, I'm not on stage with her. So she has to be comfortable with the people she's on stage with.
Well, I want to mention that after the show's over, Susan and the dog came out on the stage, and those kids just flocked up there to pet that dog. And the dog just took all the pets and, no growling, no biting, just and the tag waved the tail and all that. So she really likes people, too. That's what it counts.
She is. She loves people. She's very mild-mannered. She's good with children. And, yeah.
Yeah. Jordan, one of the things I want to emphasize, as I looked around the audience, I saw a lot of people probably didn't know a lot about Helen Keller in that audience. If you're going to go see the show, folks, learn something about this woman, and that makes the show even more amazing, because this woman wrote, didn't speak, couldn't hear, wrote 12 books. She became a public speaker. She graduated from college. I mean, she just did so many things. She's actually one of the founders of the ACLU. But to think that she could overcome all these obstacles and do so many things, it boggles the mind, doesn't it?
It absolutely does, and that's one of the things that our director had challenged us to do, is really learn about Helen Keller and the woman she is. If you look at some of the best inspirational quotes out there, a lot of them come from Helen Keller. I mean, think of it, just your whole life has been dark. You don't know anything, and you have to feel, your face and feel other people's faces just to know what they're kind of saying, and that's ultimately what she started to do, is feel the face and feel what their lips are saying, and that way she can kind of tell that this is it, and then feel the neck to feel the vibrations that are coming. I mean, just things that you would never imagine can happen, and she becomes just this wonderful, wonderful, inspirational woman. Yeah.
And the director's Shirley Sachs. The setting is the 1880s, and this is the South. So what was it like to learn the Southern accent of an Alabama ex-Confederate soldier?
Right. Well, they were, they had, at the time, before this play took place, they had money. And during this time in the show, they were starting to become not as, if you look at the actual homestead of where they lived, they did live on a ranch, but it was not big. They were struggling at the end. So, I wanted to develop the Southern gentleman, and not I'm from deep South, very, that kind of Southern drawl. I wanted to develop, and coming from the North, I study a lot of shows. I get that I sound a lot like Kevin Spacey from the show House of Cards, which he has that Southern drawl, but it's not, it's very precise. I want it to be distinguished still in it. I mean, my costume, my demeanor, everything about it. So I love that. I love being able to put on, a different character, and so it shows, I want to fool people into thinking I don't really have one.
Susan, now you've done some roles on stage, actually. Tell us about some of those.
Well, I was at Theatre Jacksonville in Into the Woods. It's the only time I've been at that theater. Played 3 different characters in the show, which was a lot of fun. I've been at Players C, but most of my work has been at ABET.
Yeah, and you have roles in the future that you...
I hope to. I hope to. I'm waiting for the theaters to all release their schedule for next season to see what's available.
Looking for dog roles too?
Absolutely.
Dakotah is ready and willing to go at any time,
Yes,
isn't
she loves being around people. So, and with her, the other things I do with her, she's used to having crowds cheering for her.
Yeah. Jordan, in this play, they have a young lady who's playing Annie, who this is her first time on stage. It's unbelievable. And then the young girl, Kellerman, I can't think of her last name, the one that plays
Libby is her name.
Is Libby, yeah,
I'm trying to think of
from Episcopal High School. I mean, she doesn't say a word the whole show. She grunts and groans, but just does so many physical activities. I mean, it's amazing performances.
Absolutely. Especially with Annie Sullivan, this being her first thing she's ever done, having to put on an accent the way that she does and learn it, and so flawless, and learning lines, something she's never done before, and she has tons of them. My heart goes out to her. I wish that was me my first time. It took her forever to finally say, this is something I want to try, and I really hope that we see her again, because it was just phenomenal. Same thing with the Helen Keller, the girl who played Helen Keller. She has just, it was unbelievable. Wears knee pads, she takes hits. She got a busted lip one night. So, I mean, she just, phenomenal cast. I've worked with a lot, and this is probably one of the most talented that I've ever been a part of. Absolutely.
Yeah, 17 people in the cast. Is that right? I think
That's
I
right.
counted them. Yeah. Many of them new, or people we haven't seen often on the stage. The two principals are terrific. I mean, the whole cast is great as far as that goes. They're a great ensemble cast. There's a lot for people to do. There are a lot of people on stage.
There are.
A lot of people to pay attention to add to the substance of a story. Well, we're saying Dakotah does have a future. Have you chosen a new play you'd like to see her in?
No, like I said, just wait for the schedules to come out and see what's coming up next season.
I noticed a number of children in the audience on Sunday matinee. A lot of children have been coming to see the show so far?
There have been, and I think that's important. I really do, because it is a historical event. They learn about Helen Keller in school, but they don't really know Helen Keller and what, the kind of background she came from.
Yeah.
And playing her father, being able to, she had a very, very good relationship with her father. Obviously not to start, but after that moment that we have, it became really good.
Yeah. Susan, were you there for a lot of the rehearsals?
Actually, no, we didn't come into rehearsal until 2 weeks before they opened.
Okay. Then I guess this question for you, Jordan. The young girl that plays Helen, the movements she has to make, I'm just trying to picture how that was blocked or how that was directed.
There was actually an entire rehearsal that was just dedicated to there's a food fight scene. That was strictly them.
The kitchen scene?
Yep, the entire 2 hours. And then a lot of the other stuff was, she just said play with it, She didn't start adding the vocalization until a couple weeks before, so.
Okay, I think we're on our 1 minute countdown here. I just want to tell both of you it's been great having you on the show.
Thank you for having me.
I hope for continued full houses there because it's a great production. So I'm recommending all of our listeners get themselves to Theatre Jacksonville. This will be from March the 6th through the 21st in San Marco. 396-4425.
Okay. Stay tuned. We're going to be talking about a hotly musical opening in Jacksonville Beach.